What's good, y'all? And today we're going to be covering the series Death Note. And I'm going to be giving my personal opinions and my thoughts on Death Note as a whole. Is it good? Is it bad? Should you watch it? Should you not watch it? And just to go and put it out here, there will be spoilers. So if you have not watched it, this is a series that launched in 2006. It aired for about a year, maybe two. It's only it's like 36 episodes. You need to make sure that you're ready for spoilers if you haven't already watched it, or if you're preparing to watch it. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. So, Death Note. When I first seen Death Note was probably 2010, 2011 maybe, give or take. And I'd only ever seen like bits and pieces of it because I seen it on Adult Swim. Ironic, almost every anime that I've seen when I was younger came from Adult Swim. Pretty sure that's a lot like everybody else that is around my same age group that they discovered anime through Adult Swim. So the particular scene I remember is it was when Kira, which is the pretty much the I don't know what you want to call it, like the alias that our main protagonist / antagonist goes by. And he was on the phone talking to the actual president of the United States, So, and he was basically threatening the president. So, seeing it at the time, I'm like, damn, this show's kind of intense. This guy's just fucking threatening the president like it ain't nothing. So, I didn't actually get to see watch, all of the episodes straight through at the time, because obviously the way Adult Swim worked is sometimes that shit would be playing chronologically, and sometimes that shit would just jump all over the place. But nevertheless, finally I found one of the many sources of watching anime legally and illegally that I was able to finally watch it straight through. And obviously Netflix eventually got it, and I've watched it on Netflix a couple times, and Hulu, I think, had it at one point. I don't know if it still has it. But I've watched Death Note multiple times, and I just felt like it was good to give this my thoughts and opinions on it. So overall, if I had to grade Death Note on a 1 to a 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst, I would have to give it an 8 or an 8.5. And the reason it's not 9 or a 10 is because the second half, or the last 12, 15-ish episodes drop off tremendously. And I know it's not that big of a hot take because I have heard this from other people, but I do realize a lot of people, there's a controversial takes of if you're pro light, against light, depending on your morality and what you see fit and whatnot. That'll be a whole different video. I'll discuss that later on. But for right now, I do believe the second half of Death Note, which if you've watched it, it's everything after L's death. So everything after L's death is what I consider the second half, because obviously we have a little mini time skip. We have pretty much in a higher place of power. He's more lax. He's able to do other things and whatnot. He's under constant pressure from the feds and whatnot. But the introduction of Nier is the biggest issue I have, because granted, I get that the series makes it a point to let you know that Nier and Mello are operating kind of off the information that was left from L. But it still doesn't do a good job of explaining how everything Nier is able to throw out everything that L wasn't able to deduce right away. So he was just automatically able to pick up on all of it, which I get. Nier and Mello were, prodigies and geniuses of their own, and one by one, they couldn't beat L's intelligence, and it was only obviously as they worked together at the end, as they say, that they were able to surpass L. However, I don't really fall for that, because there's too many coincidences. It's just how does Nier just automatically know this? How does this automatically work out in Nier's favor and stuff like that? Partially, I do believe it's because the writer decided to make Light more carefree, more lackadaisical, and makes dumber mistakes and stuff like that. So I do feel like it's partially on it's partially on Light per se, but I do feel like that's just like obviously just the writing in general just goes downhill. Light is a lot more careful and thought out and meticulous about what he does and doesn't do in the first half. And then the second half, he's just fucking doing anything and everything. He's acting out on emotions left and right. You never really see him thinking out too much. And it's just like, it is what it is, I don't like it, but I know other people that like the way it ended. But me personally, I dock it overall score-wise because of how different Light felt at the end of the series as opposed to the first half of the series. The first half of the series, Light was like a masterpiece character. Obviously, like I said, you want to argue the morality stuff. That's a whole separate topic, whole separate video. But I just felt like Light was a lot better overall in the first half. And the rest of the supporting cast was a lot better in the first half. In the second half, it just felt like characters weren't actually that impactful. And this whole, betrayal, deceitfulness at the end by the certain like characters that are closest to Light just didn't really make sense. Obviously, like in character, they're like rationalizing why maybe they should act this way, but it still just didn't hit home with me and didn't like be like, yeah, this makes me comfortable with how this is going and stuff like that. So regardless, I do think this is definitely a series to watch. Obviously, I rated it an 8 to an 8.5. That's a great setting, great rating. The only time you don't obviously anything above 5. 5 is about average. 6 okay, 7 good, 8 great, so on and so on. But I do recommend people watching it, and I do recommend it for people that are kind of new to anime because it's not a battle shonen. So you don't have to worry about like fighting and like keeping up with powers and stuff like that. There is like a power system, but it's in the form of just the notebook, which is literally basic concept. You write a name in the notebook, the person dies with a heart attack within 40 seconds, unless they state the reason and what time they're gonna die, then in that case they would actually die according to what you wrote in the notebook. But you have to know the person's real name and their face, So that's the only like power stuff you have to really worry about. The Shimigami eyes, stuff like that is kind of like all that stuff's basic. So it's just like it's not anything that has to like you have to think. Because some series you're gonna have to think like, oh, how does this power operate? How does this power work? What are the stipulations between using this power and using that power? So it's not that thought intensive on the power side, but it is a crime detective anime. So I feel like a lot of people it's easy to get into that are not anime people. It's because it's kind of like it's animated characters, but it's still just like a crime and detective show, like just like a Law and Order, a CSI show, stuff like that. A serial killer show. It's just basically that's all it is. It's just about catching a giant, huge serial killer, which isn't rare for like modern television to show. So obviously it's easier to get people into anime that way. So it's a good gateway anime, I feel like, if you're trying to get people into anime. Me personally, I've gotten some people into anime through Death Note. But obviously with them watching that, it's going to be hard. You're still swinging and reaching when you're trying to get them to watch like Battle Shonen and stuff like that. But I digress about that. So overall, the anime is pretty good. The manga is a slightly different. The manga handles the ending a little bit differently, and it's a lot more. I want to say dark, but it's kind of dark. So, if you're interested in checking out the manga, you can. I personally haven't read the full manga. I've just read like the parts that people say is like majorly different. Obviously, like the end. So I can't really attest to the overall quality of the manga compared to the anime. But I will say that the anime is definitely, like I said, 8 to 8.5. So if you want to give it a shot and you haven't already watched it, and my spoilers, hopefully haven't ruined it for you, or if you're a person like me who doesn't really care for spoilers, I still can enjoy a show even though I know spoilers, like even know what happens. Like, I cover One Piece and I read the spoilers like basically the week prior to the chapter coming out. So I still enjoy the chapter. So, but that's just me. I'm also an impatient person. So, but either way, if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button, like and comment. Let me know whether or not you've watched Death Note, what you think about it. Are you gonna watch it? And just tell me anything that you might think about. All right, y'all. Peace.